Hello, and welcome to the Business Growth Show, where I interview successful entrepreneurs on all areas of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Nathan Cassiotis. I'm a business growth expert, investor, and international speaker, where I help business owners grow and scale to create wealth and freedom. Today, I have an awesome guest. Her name is Simone Robinson, and she's a seasoned copywriter and marketer with over a decade of experience helping brands stand out and attract their ideal clients. From crafting captivating narratives to writing copy that converts, Simone specializes in making your brand unforgettable. And her expertise has driven success for multiple 7- and 8-figure businesses and world-renowned personal brands across the globe. Welcome, Simone Robinson, and thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Yes, fantastic to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, Simone. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing show for everyone watching and listening today. So you are a successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, just, introduce yourself by telling us a little bit more about you and your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a copywriter and marketer. I was fancying myself a bit of a storyteller. So I've been in the marketing world, as you said, for about 10 years now, working with everybody from startup brands all the way through to billion-dollar companies over out in the US. So I'm really passionate about the whole ecosystem of marketing, right? But really starting with that message and making sure that if you've got that right, it's just going to cause you to grow, have more success, and just overall have a better experience with your marketing dollars. So that's what I do. And I really enjoy helping brands from a variety of sizes.
Yeah, awesome. I love that, and that you've got that background of everything right from the get go, and working with those massive billion-dollar brands is great. But I think it's probably a bit more fulfilling and nice to work with the SME type market as well, right? Where people are trying to get ahead, but good to know that you've built something, or you've helped companies that are up there as well. So it helps people to grow as well on the journey alongside you. So I love that. So let's get into copywriting now. And I know this is, the initial main skill that you learned, and obviously then expanded to marketing, everything there. So when we think about copywriting, just I guess at an initial level, is what are maybe some of the key elements, that we should have to have effective copywriting that a business should be focusing on?
Yeah, got it. So big question. There's a lot that goes into copywriting, right? But in my experience, I'd say that the number one thing you want to look at when you're crafting copy at sort of any stage, right? Whether it's at ads or whether you're building out a full funnel, is making sure you're telling a story. And so humans love stories, right? We have evolved from a lot of oral traditions, a lot of that passing on of information, whether it's important information, cultural, regardless of what it is, that's something that captures people's attention, right? We don't want to read a fact sheet. We want to read a story. We want to be compelled. We want to be sort of brought into this world. And so even if you're in that nonfiction copywriting space, writing stories and having a compelling narrative kind of seeded through what you're doing is the number one way to really hook people in, right? And so we can kind of extrapolate that. That can go into, you can have a really good hook and a compelling middle and a great call to action. But if all you're doing is listing out, the boring facts, nobody's going to want to continue to read that and engage with it. And so, it's one of the things that I had a client, and it was a business buying product, I believe, info product. And the thing that actually sold it and made it such a compelling ad that just really outperformed the others was a story about Lamborghini. So the founder of Lamborghini, and how his story came about, and how he started with a competition with Ferrari, and really getting into the nitty-gritty of how that brand was built. And it had effectively not that much to do with the product, right? It wasn't like it was a car product, it was business. It was completely kind of aside, but it really captured people's attention. And especially with that audience, being the kind of audience that resonated with wanting wealth, wanting growth, you start talking about cars, right? And you hook them in. And so, then it's adjacent, and you kind of bring people in through that. And so storytelling, in short, in my experience, is just the number one way to make sure your copywriting stands out from everyone else's.
Yeah, I love that. Storytelling is definitely key. When I do my social posts, right, just by myself, if I'm out and about, even if it's just like a weekend post and, what I'm up to, it's always like write some short lines, and just create a story around it. Even if it's something small, like just going, to eat some food at a cafe, you can always create a story, right, around it and make people want to listen to it. So, yeah, definitely love it. Awesome stuff there. So, I guess let's talk about different target markets now, right? Because sometimes you might not just have one target market in a business, right? You could have multiple in terms of what you're doing. So, is there a way how to think about how to tailor this, right? So that it resonates, right? If you've got different target markets. So, what are your thoughts around, I guess, getting some copy that really stands out to people that have different target markets?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, it's very important that you take the time to understand how your audience is communicating. And so I call it the 3 a.m. rule. So at 3 a.m., your audience wakes up and what are they thinking about? What are the words they're using? What are they stressing about? Or alternatively, what are they hoping for? What's that first thing in their mind? Some people say when you get up and brush your teeth, what are you thinking about? Right. And it's that thing that really sticks with you. Because a lot of times in business, you tend to talk about your product and your business from your own lens, from the way that you know the value, you know the market. And so you're kind of approaching it from this is what the product is. But first and foremost, regardless of the target market, make sure that you understand the way they're communicating. And even in the same product, like you said, right, you can have these different target audiences. And so making sure that when you are creating copy for one versus the other, you are always coming back to that emotion and to that problem or hope or emotional driver that they have. And they might be different. So making sure you nail that first and foremost and really spend the time, troll the Reddit posts, have a look at where people are that you're trying to serve. Not everyone's going to be on Reddit. But you want that authentic communication and less of that structured, way of speaking. So number one. And then secondly, you want to make sure that you always segment what you're doing, right? You segment your emails, segment your ads, have a different landing page depending on who you're trying to talk to. Because you can have a targeted ad and then you go to a generic landing page, you're going to lose them, right? So as much as possible, you want to try, and if there's a significant difference between your target audiences, segmenting that and getting really, really clear, again, on those problems, that goal, what they're trying to achieve. And so the whole time they're going through that progression, they feel like you are directly speaking to them. They feel heard. They feel compelled to then take the next step. So I guess to summarize, the advice I would have, make sure you know exactly what their problem is and how you're solving it and the emotions behind this, and segment as much as possible within your CRM.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome stuff there. Let's talk a bit about more emotion now, right? Because we've got the right brain, the left brain people, right? The right brain, which are more emotional, creative, and then you got the left brains, more logical numbers, right? Type people there. I've got a little bit more left brain in me. I still have some right brain, and my wife Irene, who I know you know as well, is a bit more right brain as well, being the creative branding agency side. So I guess it's a lot of the time, what I know in business is that people buy for emotion and they reinforce with logic, right? So you need to focus on the emotional side, and it's probably not as natural for more of the left brainers, right, to do this. So I guess how can we like make sure that we're putting emotion right into what we're doing, especially for the people that may find it a bit more challenging to do this naturally?
Yeah, absolutely. So the simplest formula that I have for this is you want to take the feature and then you break that down from feature to benefit to result. A lot of times you'll hear feature benefit, but I like to take it that step further, and that's where the emotion really lies. And so if you are a little bit more left-brained and you kind of think analytically, if you just take each of the features of your product, of your service, and really dial down and go, okay, this is what the feature is. Great. Now, what does that end up looking like for the person? What's the benefit? What do they get out of it? Great. Now we've got the benefit. What does that look like in their day-to-day life or in their business or in the way they are engaging with the world? So for example, we could take weight loss and we could do, you get a diet plan, right? That's the feature. You get a 3-month diet plan tailored to you. Great. The benefit is you'll be able to eat healthy easily and start losing weight without stressing so much about, what you have to shop for, right? And then the result is you feel, and this will depend on the audience, right? But it's you feel energized in the morning. You're able to spend more time with your kids and run around after them when you go to the park. You feel confident around your partner. You feel whatever, right? And of course, it'll depend again here on the target audience. And that's why knowing them is so important. But it leads into that, okay, here's the feature, and we take it all the way through to that result, which, most people stop at benefit. But if you're looking to pull that emotion out, that's a key way to do it. And so for a broad overview, you can have a look at your program or your product as a whole and how your product takes them through to that result. But even just when you're talking about, you got your offer stack, or you're talking a little bit about the lead, or you're just trying to encourage them to buy, or on a sales call, always taking it through to that result, and naturally that flows to emotion, is a really great way to do it in a very structured way.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Let's talk a bit more about the different types of, I guess, channels, right? Because you've got like social media, you've got like email, we've got websites or, funnel landing pages, right? That are there, and it's different, right? And sometimes, there's different types of copy, right? Sometimes might be more of a call to action. Sometimes it might be more of just, educational type of things like that comes into it. So how should we be thinking about, doing this? Because a lot of the time people don't like to be sold to, they like to buy. So you don't want to be slamming them every time, just saying, buy my stuff, right? In there. So I'd love to know, your thoughts around, I guess, the different marketing channels, the different ways of copywriting to, I guess, put them in a journey to make people want to work with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to these multi-channels, the very important thing that I find to think about is the importance is your presence. So you want to be omnipresent as much as possible. I recently spoke with a client who said to me, look, I don't know why I'm doing social media. I don't know why I'm doing organic posting. I have never gotten a sale through organic posting, not once. So I'm not going to do it anymore. And I said, look, I understand that you probably haven't gotten a direct sale offer message, or a DM or whatever through this. That said, I can almost guarantee you that a huge portion of your clients felt confident moving ahead with you, getting on a sales call, clicking your ad, because at some point they had seen that post. And so that's a big part of when you're approaching it. Not every single piece of marketing needs to convert to a sale, which sounds sacrilegious for me in the marketing industry, right? But not every single piece of content is going to lead to a sale, nor does it need to. And so having these emails and having these social media posts in the organic sphere that educate or entertain, again, the storytelling, and make people excited to open the email because they just know it's going to be great content and they just want to read it. That creates this feeling of you not only as an authority figure, but it builds that rapport. And so when you do retarget these people with an ad, and they do go through a funnel that is really encouraging them to take action in an urgent and compelling way, they're going to be much more likely to take that step. And so that's as a really good way to think about your marketing. And you might have the occasional sales-oriented social post, right? I like engagement-driven ones because then you reach more people, right? If you're asking for comments and posts and, hey, reshare this, it's really great, it's really funny. You actually reach more people that way than asking for a direct sale. But having that be your main focus and then really focusing on the occasional sales message when it matters, when you really have something you're launching, when you really want to drive up the results, you have a bad cash flow month, then you can leverage that and leverage that audience and trust you've built to then make the sale. And so, yeah, in short, you're looking at that omnipresent focus where the more people see you, the more they're going to trust you, the more they're going to know you. They want to see you on the podcast, see you on the social post, see you on the ads. Next thing, you want to call with them, well, they feel like they already know you. So.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. Yeah, so true, right? That omnipresentness, and that's all building that brand over time, and then getting people to want to work with us from there. So love it. Let's talk about, I guess, testing and things like that, right? Because I think when you're writing copy, it's not always going to be, marketing's testing generally, right? And it's the same with copy. You could write a particular way and resonate to some people, it doesn't resonate with others. And what you think resonates may not, and vice versa in the way that it works. So what are your thoughts around, I guess, testing and optimizing with copy, right? To get, I guess, better results in the end as well.
Yeah, certainly. So just to start with, I had a mentor tell me once, just in terms of the writing of it, before we even get to testing, that you should be writing 10 headlines and using one. So write 10 times more than you think you need to. And then one of those is going to be half decent, was effectively the approach, right? And so I've kind of carried that, not only in my copywriting, but in marketing in general. And so testing is critical. It's so important. We're talking on the ads, we're talking on the landing pages, consistently testing and tweaking regularly and experimenting can make the difference between, you can tweak it and get a 2% additional conversion rate. That can mean a lot on the back end, right? And so the number one piece of advice when testing is to have your control. So you have the ad that's doing great, or maybe it's not, maybe it failed, but you have a basis. And then you go, all right, I'm going to change my creative. I'm going to change, great, now let's see how that worked, good. Now I'm going to change my headline. How did that work? And so, great, now I'm going to change the sales page. Actually, I'm going to adjust the price. I'm going to adjust the headline. That's a very important way of testing, where you're continually going back against a control, because otherwise it can be hard to know exactly what helped, what made the difference, how it worked, kind of having that almost scientific method approach of testing. So from a practical point, that's huge. And then from a sort of psychological point is, okay, maybe changing the color of the button will help, but realistically, you want to make changes that are meaningful to the psychology. So you're testing another angle. You're testing another way of catching attention. You are testing a different story. You're testing things that mean more than I changed one word or I tweaked the color a little bit. Because sure, these things can work in the really minutiae if you've got a funnel doing phenomenal and you're really bringing a lot of traffic and it tweaks by 0.5%. Yeah, that can mean a lot in the back, right? But for most people, it's more these big psychological triggers that you need to be testing across all your platforms.
Yeah, love it. That's awesome. And I guess one other thing that's coming up a lot more lately, with copy is like ChatGPT and AI tools, right? That are being
Yes.
used to create marketing copy and blogs and things like that. But, people are sounding, I guess, similar and things like that. So I'd like to know from your perspective, with knowing that the skills of copywriting is like, I guess, the pros and cons, right, of using AI, things like that, for people that are just wanting to do it quickly, or, not seeking out, more experts in the industry.
Yep. So, I mean, I think AI has its place, especially if it can cut down the time you are spending on the boring, mundane, minutia kind of tasks. Use it, right? Sometimes I will throw it through and get it to proofread because I've missed something and I just need an extra pair of eyes and I might not have my proofreader available at the moment. Great for that. I'm stuck and I need some brainstorming. Fantastic. Some of the ideas are terrible, but if you ask it enough times, it gives you enough ideas and eventually one or two will be good. And so definitely there are places for AI, but in my experience, it's not quite there yet that you can't tell you used AI. And that's kind of the sticking point, right? Because if you can tell you used AI, it sucks out that individuality that people are attracted to. And in the world of AI and so many people following trends and kind of in this more conforming mindset, standing out and having authenticity to interact, they want that meaningful connection. We are missing that meaningful connection. And so AI can be a great way to kind of give you those ideas, maybe even help you structure a post if you're new to copywriting and you kind of don't know the beats. But I would really recommend that you still take that and you inject some personality. You put something in there that is unique to you and the way you operate and speak. Because if everyone sounds the same, why would somebody want to engage with you versus the other 10 people that they just saw across their feed? So really important to remember that authenticity is selling at the moment and probably always will, right? People like connection.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that. So powerful. And Yeah, my little thing to myself is putting myself out there more, right? The authenticity. And I think it's a big thing for everybody, right? Because it's like a lot of people can be the best world's kept secret, right? There. And it's just, yeah, putting yourself out there and yeah, helping to create that connection with people.
Yes.
So definitely yeah, agree with that one too. So so that's a lot of the copywriting stuff. But obviously, you've learned, and let's talk more about the expanding marketing in general, right? Now, where copy is really key. Obviously, we've got to get that message that cuts through. But that feeds into an overall marketing strategy. So if we're talking about an overall marketing strategy, what are some of these core, I guess, components, right, that we're needing in a strategy to make sure that it's going to actually work, in the market?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's going to come back to a couple of things that I've sort of already touched on. One of which is knowing the people you're trying to communicate with, because I find that a lot of people get sidetracked by whatever the latest guru is telling them is going to be the secret, is going to be the thing that transforms their marketing and absolutely game changers, 10 times ROI, change their life. And then you find, well, all right, maybe it's a webinar and your audience is really busy business owners making, 7 figures, and they're not going to sit and watch 2-hour webinar necessarily, right? They are not the right people for you. And so making sure that you are aligning your marketing strategy always with the people you're trying to connect with is often really overlooked. And so it sounds simple, but that it is, right? Simplicity often will sell. Choosing a platform that aligns with the people you're trying to communicate with, and then refining it and testing it and getting it right before you jump to test the new thing. So say you have a low ticket funnel doing phenomenal, right? Great. We're going to test that. We're going to see how we can then build on that. Once we've got that working, a well-oiled machine, really repeatable for you, great. Now let's test, sponsoring a bunch of podcasts and trying to get our name out that way, for example, right? So taking the time to really refine who you're speaking to and how they like to consume media and engage with people is key. And then following that up with, to a degree, omnipresence. And so it can sound a bit contradictory, but I don't mean you need to have 7 funnels running and like 10 social media platforms. I do mean that you need to make sure you're diversifying a little bit. You've got a bit of emails, you've got some social posts, you've got some paid media, so you are having a bit of diversification to create that omnipresence, while still coming back to testing and refining the thing that works for you and your business. And it might take a while to find it, and it should be based in evidence, but being willing to test and refine and get it right before being kind of sidetracked. And I say this with love because the marketing agency industry is big on this, but trying not to get too sidetracked by the latest shiny thing syndrome. It is very big in making sure that you have that consistency in your brand versus a flashbang that then fades.
Yeah, definitely love that. Yeah, create that marketing machine, right, ongoing as we build it, in those different methods there. So love that. Let's talk about some of the metrics, right, or the the numbers around it, because I think this is a really important thing with marketing, right? Is that so that's how you know actually what's happening. And I know some of the platforms obviously show some metrics, right? When you're running ads, I think organically people don't really know, but once you start running ads, you're like, hey, you start to understand it a little bit more. But there's probably some additional things that we should be doing. So what do you think are some of these key metrics that we should be measuring so that we can see whether we're being effective, right, in the marketing?
So, I mean, look, there's a variety of metrics, right? And you want to look at the most common ones, your cost per clicks, your click-through rate, your open rate. These are kind of the basics that I hear a lot of people talking about. And yes, it's very important to know these numbers. But the number that I find is the most neglected is your LTV. So your lifetime customer value. So whatever. Basically, knowing how much that customer is going to bring you, not in the first purchase, but long term, being really, really clear on exactly how much you're going to make over the lifespan of your average customer. And I say this is so important because if you know this number, you become really competitive at the front end of your funnel. So you are suddenly able to spend significantly more to acquire a customer than your competitors can, because they are thinking, I sell my front end product for $20, so I have to acquire a customer for less than $20, right? But if you know realistically that your average customer is going to net you $500, it's no problem to spend $100, right? So if you know that number, you're able to then make really informed decisions, and effectively your competition can't really compete anymore on that front end if they don't know their numbers. It also allows you to tweak it. It also allows you to find ways on the back end to continue to add value. You stop fighting so hard for every new lead, and you start thinking long-term about your nurture sequences, your retargeting, your emails, and how you can then make more money from this lead who you've already closed. And so it's less work. You're not fighting the lead machine so hard. And you're also obviously long-term able to be more competitive. So, while all of your numbers are important, know your numbers, know your data, have the spreadsheet, the CRM, however you track it, but also do not neglect that back end, because far too many people obsess over cost per click. Far too few people are looking at lifetime customer value. So that'd be my
Yeah.
tip.
Yeah, definitely. I love lifetime value. Definitely something that I state as well. And just for the people that, are maybe early on in understanding this, is it just simply looking at all of the customers and just seeing how much everyone buys and then just dividing it out as basically an average there on what's happening?
Right. Look, so that's a good starting point if that's all you have, right? I would still recommend you do that. Ideally, though, you do want to have a look at different funnels and different methods of acquiring a customer, because you might find that you have a certain product or a certain funnel that is attracting people who spend more, attracting those higher buyers, and you can focus more of your energy back into that. So if you have one funnel that is making you maybe $200 average per customer and another making you $5, you're going to want to invest back more into the one that is attracting the right people for your brand. And it's also good because you can look back and go, okay, well, why is that one not working? What have I done wrong? Where is the disconnect? Is it something in my language? Is it something in my targeting? What am I doing? And you can even potentially improve that right off the back end of this information. So you will have some customers who tend to spend more, and the more granular you get, the better. Honestly, I'm a big fan of getting a little bit obsessive with the data and getting really clear on exactly the journeys people are taking that are leading to this ideal result. So,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Love that. So important with putting that out there and working it out and then doubling down basically, right? On going, this is the one that we want to focus on and making it happen. And then I guess it comes down to having like a value ladder, right? As it's called in the industry, right? Where you have something like you said, the initial entry offer, right? That you have, and then you have, I guess, more things. And this is maybe something a lot of people think about. I guess is a little bit conjecture, right, in the industry, because some people are saying just focus on one or two things and just sell that. And other people are like, no, sell 10 things because it'll increase the lifetime value, right? And add all these things in there. And I don't know if there's any right or wrong, because I think every business is a little bit different, but I'd like to know, your thoughts on, I guess, keep it like from innovating and I guess and keep adding things, or just like doubling down on a small number of things, to create that impact as well.
yeah, sure. So I do think it is very dependent on the model of your business. For example, if you're in the retail or e-commerce world, you probably want to add a few additional offers, right? Especially onto like your upsells, your downsells, you're reaching out to people on, socials, on emails, following up and getting more value is almost always the way to go in that kind of industry. Versus, potentially if you're in a higher ticket space, you're in, coaching or consulting or something where you have these bigger offers. I always found that a really great way to structure it was to have your low ticket and then to immediately bring people into some sort of value adding face to face. So like a book a call kind of upsell, right? And I say value adding because people are really wise to the discovery call, where they know they're going to get sold to. And so making sure that it is congruent with your low ticket and it is genuinely adding value, right? If it's an hour call, make sure in that first 30 minutes you are actually adding value to them, their business, whatever, is really big. And so that's usually a better way to maximize the amount you're going to get from each customer, versus spamming them with these lower ticket offers. And then by the time it comes to the one-on-one call, they're so burnt out buying from you that they might not necessarily want to continue to engage. And so if you can get them on that call and get them on like with a closer, that's typically a good way to grow a little bit more and get more value from each customer. That said, if they don't book the call, a downsell sequence can be really helpful to get them to continue to engage, because in that case, the psychology is, okay, you didn't book the call, that's fine. Now we need to reinforce the purchase you made. And so it's kind of a bit of psychology behind why we do these things, which is why it kind of differs for industry, differs for price point. But you can see success using that kind of model in my experience.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. One thing that's coming to mind is around like capturing the lead now, right? We've talked a little bit about, capturing and nurturing already, but I think capturing is really the important part, right? About people going, hey, I want to give you my details, my name, email, potentially phone number as well. And there's different ways, like different types of lead magnets. Maybe there's like a VSL, a video sales letter funnel, things like that, right? That go out there to people. So I guess, what are your thoughts around these and maybe, are ones working better than others, or do we just try all of them and see what happens? I'd like to know your thoughts around that, the capturing side of things.
Sure. I think when it comes to lead magnets and capturing information, I just caution people to go into it with the right expectations, because a lot of times if somebody is coming in and they're just entering their details, they might not turn into an immediate lead. You're likely going to find, at least we have found a lot through testing, lower quality of leads that way. Now, on the flip side, you're paying less for these leads. So it's kind of a pros and cons situation. If you're trying to grow your list and grow your brand and just really become more well-known, increase that omnipresence, nurture these people long-term into the low ticket, the high ticket, kind of take them through the ascension, it's great. If you're looking for an immediate kind of cash injection into your business, I would recommend other ways versus the lead magnet. We can do the book of calls, we can do the low tickets, we can do things that at least encourage people to make more of a commitment. And again, it's that psychological trigger of, I've spent $1 with you, I'm committed, right? Even if it's just, $1, $7, that's usually a good price point. Just to get people through the door and break the mental barrier, now they're more committed. So that works quite well if you're looking, depending on how you're looking to grow. And in terms of which ones do better, it is a case of testing, but I do recommend that it's a balance between making sure you're giving value, but not overloading them. So you can do a webinar, don't make it a half-day seminar that you're running, right? Make it a 90-minute thing they can sit through. Don't, make it an ebook, great. Make it a guide that they can take practical, actionable information from. Don't give them an entire book to read unless it's a, free plus shipping kind of book funnel, which again, they're taking out the credit card for. So making sure that you are giving them value, but you're doing it in such a way that is consumable. They can actually go through it in a reasonable time and be almost indoctrinated into your way of thinking, which then off the back will make it easier to nurture and sell them long term.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's awesome. And then I guess that, the next phase you just, ended on there is around nurturing, right? And I know this is important. So once we get that lead, let's say the email, right? Then ideally we have some sort of nurture sequence or welcome series or something like that, as it's called, right? So that we can get people to become more trusting of us, right? And aware of what we're doing. So I'd like to know, your thoughts on that, maybe some examples of what we could be adding on, into that to just cut people through and go, I'm really enjoying this before we do the next step or whatever that is. Yeah.
So back to storytelling, right? If you build a bit of authenticity, tell a bit about your story in an engaging and interesting way, that works great because, you opt into a screen and that's good, but then you're getting these emails from a person who you connect with, you relate to, they're funny, they're fun to read. I would open the next email a lot more than if I got a boring sales, hey, welcome, great to have you, kind of, email first into the sequence. So, you can share the information, right? Whether it's the link to the webinar, it's the, downloadable content and going, hey, I think you'll really like it because XYZ, get excited, a bit about me, all those kind of elements into the email. And then always following up with something that some reason to open the next one. So whether that's next time I'm going to share whatever, right? The top 10 things I wish that I knew before starting business. I mean, obviously that's a boring line, but you're giving them that concrete info of, this is how the next one will benefit me. Or, hey, make sure you watch out because, in a couple of days I'm launching my XYZ, and because you signed up, I would really love to give you, free access or something. So you're giving more value, you're giving more connection, you're giving more reason to keep reading. And that's the big thing. It's less about trying to sell them in that initial phase, and it's more about how do you get them to keep opening your emails, keep reading, keep engaging, keep clicking, until you become that trusted person in their inbox, somebody who they are willing to then engage with. And so when you do come with something in the second part of your sequence going, hey, I just really been great to have you. It's really good having you part of the community. As a thank you, I want to offer you X% off my XYZ program. Again, probably more low ticket than high ticket, or hey, I want to offer you a free one-on-one call where I'm going to help you do XYZ and achieve this for your brand. They're going to be much more likely then to commit and to book that next step with you. So making sure, in short, you are engaging, you are personal, you're authentic, and you give them a reason to open the next one.
Yeah, love that. That's awesome. And obviously in the CRM softwares, we can automate all this stuff, right? And everything like that there to make it really
Just
well.
lucky.
Yes, it definitely. Otherwise, yeah, wouldn't want to do all this manually. And I guess from doing all of that, what I'm hearing differently around the industry is some people are like, slam your list, send more emails, do all this sort of stuff. But other people are like, if you do too much, you're gonna people are just gonna opt out, in terms of what you're doing. So because you may have a lot of things going on, like, for example, for me, like I've got a podcast, I could email them once a week on a podcast, right? I could email, I could be doing a blog once a week, I could be doing an event that I'm running, right? So there could be multiple emails in a week that I send out for something that's maybe scheduled, weekly, something that's actually just ad hoc, right? That pops up as well. So, in your experience when you're working with these brands, do you think that there's too much, too little, or sort of what comes into that, how much you're actually, emailing the list as well?
Sure. So you definitely can burn a list out. And that often comes with promoting too much. And I'd find that's the key differentiating factor. And it's one of the reasons that, say, like an e-commerce brand really shouldn't be emailing daily, because you can really quickly burn out a list. You're selling every single time they get an email. They know you're selling. And so if you have built that rapport with your list and they know that a lot of your emails are just going to be good information, a good anecdote, something they can look forward, something that's going to brighten their day versus them being bombarded with more sales. That's a really good palate cleanse if you are sending out more emails. And so it's got to do a lot with your approach. People, if they like what you're putting out and they're enjoying reading it, they're going to be much happier to receive more versus less. And so a lot of the bigger personal brands will send daily emails with the caveat that they're not selling every day. And so that's a really big one. A good rule of thumb I find for a lot of industries is about 3 times a week. You don't want to do more than that. But again, if you have that really great engagement with people, you can potentially do more, mindful of not overselling. If people feel like they're being sold to every time they open your email, and you do it a couple times a week, I'd unsubscribe, right? So having that kind of thinking about how you would receive it. Would you be willing to open this and read it and be happy with it? Would you feel spammed? And just having kind of a consideration. You might not be your ideal customer, but it's still a good indicator. We're all human, we're all overloaded. Make it worth their time. And if you can't, then pare it down and make sure that what you're sending is intentional and well curated, and maybe a, bit of a newsletter. Right, some industries do really well with a once a month newsletter because they don't need to. If you're a lawyer, probably don't need to be emailing 3 times a week. So it does very much depend on that and how much information you want to communicate to your list.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And just one more thing that comes up with me is that you mentioned there about like people unsubscribing or we're busy and things like that. And there could be a lot more emails being sent out. So I think the subject is a big thing here, right? About like what you put there to make sure, are people just going to be like delete or just move into another folder compared to actually clicking on it and doing it there. So do you have any thoughts around something that's, I guess, going to eye catch people to go like, I will click on that one?
Yes. two big things that stand out. Curiosity, right? We're curious creatures naturally. And so we will often click something just to find out what's going on. And so if you can lead, you don't want to be too clickbaity all the time, but if you have a level of curiosity, even if it's like, you won't believe that happened to me last time I went to a cafe. Of course, we can make that a bit more concise for the size of an email kind of subject line. But something that makes them go, oh yeah, that's interesting, I want to know. So pairing that with good text, like your first couple lines that kind of pop through, and making sure that that drives curiosity, that's huge. Even if they don't engage beyond that, most people will because they want to find out. It's a good way to get the open rate. And then using people's names is good, right? Anything that feels personal, I'm more likely to click on. Most of us are. We don't necessarily want to have everyone be name-based, but having a good amount of that kind of sprinkled in, again, feels more personal, catches your eye. We are hardwired to notice our names. So that's kind of a good way to do that. And let me think. The occasional urgency. Don't overuse it, but if it's something you need people to really click on and you really have something you want to say, don't be shy to kind of go, hey, there's a time limit on this, or there's a number of people able to get into this program. As long as it's authentic, because people will burn out quick if you lie. That's another great way to kind of bring people in and get them to click if you sparingly.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. Thanks for sharing. Really a lot of gold. You shared so much gold with us, today, Simone, on all things copywriting and marketing. I guess as we're starting to wrap up, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So let me see. I'd say emotion, emotion, emotion. Always make sure you're tying it back to emotion and how people are thinking, how people are feeling. And always write more copy than you need to, and then cut. Right, write 10, use 1. That was gold. It stuck with me forever. And I think if you take something from this, making sure you're always going back to emotion and making sure you're always writing more than you need to, because your first draft will probably suck, is a really good way to kind of approach it.
Yeah, I love it. So true. Awesome stuff there. And yeah, we connected through our networks. I learned about your awesome journey from, starting as a copywriter to now being a marketing strategist and chief marketing officer as well. You're amazing. So much knowledge that you've shared with us today and what you're doing. And I'm sure you continue to help brands stand out and attract their ideal clients. Very grateful that we connected and look forward to working with you. So Simone, how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to connect with me is through my website. So that is simonerobinson.com.au. So number one place, when you get there, you can learn a bit more about what I do. You can also book a call with me to just have a chat and see if we're a good fit to potentially work together.
Yeah, awesome. Well, definitely check out Simone on her website there, all about her, and definitely a master in the marketing copywriting space here to grow your business, right, to that next level. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, Simone. Thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
Amazing. It's been great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Business Growth Show, where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Ethan Cassiotis, or visit my website, ethancassiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you'd reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. So until next time, remember that our business grows where we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So let's create wealth and freedom together.